isn't it?
Good job by Gio. His teammate is now on the racetrack. Gio was fastest in practice. His teammate Cole Butcher rolled up to the second on the speed chart earlier today in practice. This is the number 28 of Cole Butcher out of Porters Lake, Nova Scotia. Full-timer of the ASA Stars National Tour in 2023. Sits third in the standings. Coming off his best finish of the year at Milwaukee. A runner-up to Ty Majeski in that one.
Well, they must have a fairly similar setup. He goes right to number 3 with a 12.295.
Ooh, that might be the best first lap we've seen.
Might be. Number 2 with a 12.150. Oh boy, look out, here he comes.
Don't get too close to that front stretch wall. Gary St. Amant's teammate will tell you that's not a good idea. Back in the day, ASA, we had a car demolish.
Oh, he takes it from his teammate with a 12.043.
There you go. The Oxford 250 winner, the Atlantic Tilt Load 9D Creative Toyota, puts it up P1 right now.
Next group of cars will be making their way out.
Nice job. And we're angle parking them in the infield, not just to look pretty, but we're impounding. This is it. When you roll out for qualifying, you can't make any changes on these race cars.
Well, if I'm Butcher or Ruggiero, I don't think I need to.
Tape on the nose, air pressure, that's about it.
All right, Matt, down to you.
Cole Butcher so far, quick time of the first 6 cars. But as he's getting the helmet off, Cole, we know that there's a lot of heavy hitters still you'll have to qualify. You think that 12.043 is going to stand up?
I hope so. I'm not really sure, honestly. I know the track's gotten pretty hot since our last practice, so we'll just have to wait and see.
Cole Butcher so far, P1 and Go Fast Racing qualifying, guys.
Yeah, unexpected sunshine, really. He just brought up the point
Truly.
that the track's been baked by the sun rather than the overcast guys we started the day with some sprinkles in the morning. Lots of changes. Some expected, some did not expect that.
Well, and it's going to change again before we go to green because we will be racing into the evening here.
Cole Butcher, man, he's on a charge, though. He is ready and poised for his first victory in the series. 4th at Five Flag Speedway to begin the season. A 3rd at Hickory and a great run. He found a racing line like nobody else could find there. And now we come here after this run-out finish at Milwaukee. A lot of momentum in his positive direction for that number 28 machine. And Cole Butcher, the driver out of Nova Scotia. Von Suss working with the team. Dennis Dean working right with these guys. They have a ton of laps here between the two of them. Getting Cole comfortable is a main priority here. And Gio, he just gets pretty acclimated anywhere he goes.
Yeah.
In the Super Late. He's been fast everywhere.
Well, this is a place where experience is definitely going to pay off.
Little break in the action to get some drivers and cars to the infield to continue qualifying.
When we go back down trackside to Matt.
Gio Ruggiero was second quick. You know, kind of a reverse flip there from practice to the Donnie Wilson Racing Machines 1 and 2. You're on the wrong side of this, but still second quick so far. How's the car feel?
Car's pretty good. I think the track's a little bit hotter and more slick than it was in practice. Hopefully my lap time there will kind of hold up and we'll start in a good spot tonight.
So far, Donnie Wilson Racing 1 and 2 in Go Fast Racing qualifying.
It's a great start to the night for them, Matt, for sure. And, you know, I think, Jim, it's okay if you guessed a little bit it wasn't going to be as hot, but you're playing the long game and thinking for later tonight, too.
Big time. And it's a matter of, get it figured out because yesterday, really hot day. All day hot yesterday. Like, okay, what do we practice for? It's going to be overcast on race day today. It may be a little bit cooler. A lot of question marks here. With that rain overnight washing off some of the tacky surface. I was on the track yesterday at the end of day. There was some rubber down, believe me. There was some rubber on this racetrack. I think those drivers are kind of feeling their way through and trying to get the same comfort level they had at the end of a 3-hour, I think, session. They had time to get on track and get acclimated yesterday.
Well, there's definitely going to be some after tonight. 400 laps around this High Bank quarter mile.
And this is the only division running, which is a difference maker at a track no matter where we go in the series. There's not another division, another different tire compound to work through. That was something that at Milwaukee there were several divisions, and some of these
North
drivers
Wilkesboro.
were saying, hey, you know what, that was a different compound. It took me 5 or 6 laps. Or if we got in a certain groove, we knew it was old rubber from the prior series.
Now we're going to have 2 stage breaks tonight. As you can see, our info for the Redbud 400. Stage breaks around lap 140 and 280. 8-tire race, Jim. You might want to explain that once again for the fans who might be new to the ASA Stars National Tour. And then our top 8 qualifiers will redraw.
So you have 4 tires you designate for in the pits, and these 4 on the race car have to be the tires that are on the race car when the race starts as well. So 4 plus 4 is 8. So they only have 4 spares to change in the pits, and you only change 2 of those at a time during this 400-lap race tonight.
Any way you want to go.
I'm thinking they wouldn't change rears or fronts, though. I think it's all going to be about sides.
Sides for sure.
And they could swap sides, just not on the same
Right.
stop as a change. Front to rear. Jaron Crabtree out of Muncie, Indiana, making his ASA Stars National Tour debut. Former Rookie of the Year in the ASA CRA Super Series, the series based here in Ohio and Indiana, up into Michigan.
And he does not break into the top 5.
For the 3 regional
Jaron
series
is
making up this
7th
deal.
with a
Yep.
12.577.
Next up, a driver won the Junior Late Model Championship in the CRA sanctioned run when they brought teenagers to 4 and got them in full-size stock cars. Chase Berta won that championship a couple of years ago. Now we're here racing in a super late at Anderson Speedway for the first time in the ASA Stars National Tour in the black number 18.
Sixth right now with a 12.377.
Lapeer Pool and Spa. A
Pool
silly
and
not
Spa
coffee.
sounds real good right about now.
Rob Service, finish line and auto sales on his Chevrolet.
He's up to 4th with a 12.285. And he goes to 3rd with a 12.182.
He had some really good practice speeds as well. So keep an eye on Chase Berta. Well, it's his first race at this level with this series. Track time and experience will pay for that young driver. Next up, the number 32 on the track, Scotty Tomasic, or Scott Tomasic. Doesn't care what do you call him, but Scotty's on the racetrack at this number 32.
The only way he really wants to be called is the winner, right?
Speaking of experience, he's got a lot of laps here. He usually wears the number 4 on the door, but it's Archie St. Hilaire's number 32 on the door and the roof of his Chevrolet. Try to beat Cole Butcher's time of 12.043 seconds. The 4th different driver to run for Archie St. Hilaire in that number this season.
He goes to 4th, 12.208.
Morris Transmission, Clement Liquor, Kenny Mowing, and Go Fast Racing in his Toyota. Go Fast Racing, the sponsor of the Pole Award every week.
Up to 3rd with a 12.122.
Sorry, every race. We're only doing 10 races over the course of the season.
Yep, halfway through.
Go Fast Pole Award, $1,000 to the winner of the quick time here today at every race in 2023. 131, Blake Rowe. This car has been good. We've seen Kyle Crump race it to victory here in the Redbud 400 2 years ago.
He's a little loose off a 2. Nice job of gathering it up.
Making hay in this late model. It's a Michigan-based team. He's done quite well in it. He also has raced and won in the Midwest Modified Tour. 3 of his last 4 starts have gone. He's gone to victory lane, including this year.
He is 8th right now, 12.363.
Blake Rowe out of Ortonville, Michigan. Getting a chance to run the super lates and making his ASA Stars National Tour debut here today in Anderson.
7th with a 12.334.
Next up, the driver that many gauge and measure off, it's Bubba Pollard. Phoenix Construction on the quarter panel of his number 26. He has a Chevrolet and a Ford. This is the Chevrolet. He's raced, I think, 3 different times now here in 2023 in the ASA Stars National Tour. Bit of a wiggle there off of turn 4.
Yeah.
Pollard comes into this race 4th in the point standings.
And a little bit frustrated, right?
A little bit. Well, victory at North Wilkesboro, but a lot of could-have-beens. Hickory had a steering rack break off while being in contention, racing forward. Pensacola, Five Flag Speedway, got in a tussle. Caution comes out. He's running for the lead, got dialed and spun around and crashed into on the front stretch. Cost him a victory there in March.
And he's 5th right now with a 12.206. Bubba could very easily be the points leader right now, Jim, and have 3 wins at least.
Yeah, a 19th place result at Five Flag Speedway. That Hickory incident, he came from 13th on the grid. He was just picking them off left and right. Ends up with a 23rd place finish. He said other than Milwaukee, where he finished 8th, he thinks he had a shot at every one of the races to win in the 6th thus far.
Hard to argue with.
5 thus far, excuse me. This is race 6 of 10. And he's working with 2 different teams. It's his own team that he's run the majority of these races, but at Slinger Speedway in April, he worked with Travis Dasso up in Wisconsin, did a lot of work with that team. And the chassis that's really taking forward up there is the Dave Reed chassis, and he worked with those guys. And now he's back in that familiar Seneca number 26 chassis.
And let's go back down into the pit area or infield area. Here's Matt.
Scotty Tomasek has turned thousands of laps here at Anderson Speedway, and it seemed to prove pretty well for you, sitting third quick. Is that going to hold?
I think it'll put us in a good spot to start the feature with 400 laps, so really you can start anywhere and win this thing. That's what it's about, trying to do a good job for Go Fast Racing here, get them some points for this Owners' Championship, and put Moore's transmission up front tonight.
Scotty Tomasek currently sitting third quick right now in Go Fast Racing qualifying.
And as we have a pause in the action, a big development happening here. Beautiful looking race car. Thank you, Scotty, for being part of this program. Scotty's got, as Matt mentioned, a bunch of laps, but the development I just pointed out, I just saw a vehicle being pushed from the center of the X out to pit road and into the pit area. Kyle Crump. Kyle Crump has just had his car pushed off the racetrack. He has yet to attempt to qualify, but Kyle Crump was fastest in practice yesterday. He's carrying the number 18 for the Anthony Campy racing effort in a car that's prepared by Johnny and Butch Van Dorn. There were high expectations for Kyle Crump to do well here. Kyle has had a run of success working with those 2 young brothers that are racing with Van Dorn Racing Development and what they got going on. But Kyle Crump's car now being pushed from the infield after presenting down on the pits. You come off the pit road in turn 3, come down to present for qualifying. Kyle Crump's car took a hard right up the turn 4 ramp, and it's out in the pits now. Big developments here for Crump, who's hoping to probably bag that $1,000. There it is. They're going thrashing on that white number 18. That car was pushed back to the pit area in between these rounds of bringing cars to the infield to qualify. We are rolling through qualifying, determining who's going to win the $1,000 Go Fast Pole Award. And by the way, qualifying, there's points on the line here. 5 for the pole, 4 for second, 3 for third, 2 for fourth, and 1 for fifth. That's also a tradition carried on through the old ASA National Tour into this season and the debut of the Stars National Tour. Austin Nason on the racetrack.
And it's Butcher, Ruggiero, Tomasic, Berta, and Pollard all getting those points right now.
Nason, a full-timer this year, up to 6th in the point standings, looking to improve his best finish of 7th, Pensacola 5 Flag Speedway. This is a second home for Austin Nason. He grew up at Rockford Speedway. We talked about how Mark Martin thought it was similar to Anderson and how it adapted and how he was acclimated to getting to Anderson and doing well on ASA. This is Austin Nason's wheelhouse. He's done a lot of racing on tight quarter-mile bull rings in the upper Midwest, including here at Anderson Speedway.
7th right now with a 12.245.
Nason out of Roscoe, Illinois. Brings it down to the center. May not have the best qualifying car, but mark my words, Nason will be in contention to win this thing in the race. Beautiful looking car for the debut for the Texan out of Leander, Texas, Logan Bearden. Now living in Mooresville, North Carolina. Finished 5th here in the Redbud 400 last year under the CRA sanction. This is Logan's debut.
He's 11th.
Reading through some notes, he had a tire go down last year in the 400 lapper and still came back to rebound for 5th.
Stays in 11th with a 12.369.
Kind of rolled through the kind of gingered his way through turn 3. We'll see if that cost him time or gain time. A lot of eyeballs on this driver with the laps he's put in here.
Jumps all the way to 4th, 12.173.
Next up, the driver who dominated at the Milwaukee Mile, winning his 2nd ASA Stars National Tour race, coming off his $20,000 payday this past Tuesday at the Slinger Nationals, Ty Majeski on the backstretch, current point leader for the ASA Stars National Tour. He told me the closer they got to getting faster on the speed charts, the closer they got to looking at their Slinger Speedway setup. That High Bank quarter mile in Wisconsin is a quarter mile as well, and they got a late chance to grab the win away from Luke Fenhouse and did so cleanly, winning his 3rd race there this week.
He jumps to 4th with a 12.163.
Yeah, he can get it done. He can qualify like nobody's business. More fast times than anybody else in ASA Midwest Tour history.
A little higher through 3 than most of the drivers we've seen so far, too.
Hung it out there wide, didn't he? For sure.
Yeah, he's going to stay in 4th.
A lot of concern about how to get through those bumps in turn 3. He was texting late last night with his crew chief, Toby Noodleman, to figure that out. Next up, number 5, the man we took a ride with, Dalton Armstrong. His brother Dakota races full-time in the 500 Sprint Car Tour. Dalton has raced in the last 2 little 500s here at Anderson Speedway. Cousin Caleb Armstrong, also a good hot shoot. Stock car and midget and sprint car pavement racer.
13th right now.
This is Richie Waters, number 5 for Dalton Armstrong out of Newcastle, Indiana. Lemon
Jumps to
Trucking.
12th.
Lemon Trucking is sponsor on that car, getting it together. Dalton's done a select few. I thought he raced at Milwaukee. That just didn't come together for this team. His only 2 prior starts in the Midwest Tour were at the Milwaukee Mile. This is his debut in the ASA Stars National Tour.
Looks like that's where he's going to stay.
Butcher, 12.043 is the time to beat. Michael Hind now brings the flames forward. That Toyota's flying quickly around turns 3 and 4.
Just a couple cars left to go, Jim.
Out of Hernando, Florida, the 19-year-old. He's had a couple of times where he's got Dan Fredrickson race his car, including the day he went to senior prom at high school instead of racing that weekend earlier this year.
Michael will move to 14th. Some smoke on this car, maybe?
Bottoming out or some tire rub. I mean, there's a lot going on to keep these cars to the racetrack.
And he will move to 11th.
Chris Caters is crew chief. Chris said one of our goals this weekend is to keep the car on the racetrack. This is a tough place to figure out.
He goes to...
Hind up to 10th now, 12.275. He is 0.030 seconds off a pole. I'm sorry, 2.232 off a pole. So a little over 0.2 of a second for your top 10 in speeds here. Here comes Albert Francis. In the number 33 comes in your 8th in points, the 21-year-old out of Paynesville, Ohio. Best finish this year is 7th at Madison International Speedway in the Joe Shear Classic in Wisconsin. White flag out for Albert. Up to 10th for Albert Francis, 12.257. 12.257 moves Hind back to 11th. Can he break it in the top 8 for the redraw? No, he'll stay 9th. He'll bump Austin Nason down a spot. 12.245. Just 0.2 off pole. 12.043 is Cole Butcher's time to beat. And we're waiting on the number 83 of J.P. Crabtree. And we'll see if the number 18 of Kyle Crump can be presented for qualifying. Here comes the white 18 of Crump down the chute in that Chevrolet, coming down with that brand new 5-star stock car body on it. Rolls to the center of the infield. Just puzzling what happened there when they had to basically pull out a qualifying line and get that car repaired in the pits before returning to the racing surface. Number 18, Kyle Crump, the Crosstown Automotive sponsorship. That's the team that's being fielded under the ownership banner of the driver and team owner second in points, Casey Roderick, not here. This is the number 18, entered by Anthony Campy Racing. Kyle Crump on the backstretch. His only attempt this year for the ASA Stars National Tour was at Madison International Speedway, where he's one of 10 drivers that did not qualify into the 28-car field and went home.
16th right now. It's going to jump him up a little bit. He goes all the way to 4th.
He had a lot of speed yesterday, Ralph. Keep an eye on this last lap for Kyle Crump in the number 18.
12.162. Here he comes to the checkers, and he's going to stay right there with a 12.136.
Nobody was thinking it was over until we saw Kyle Crump qualify. Thank goodness the team got it repaired. Good job by Johnny Van Dorn and Butch Van Dorn to get that car figured out and presented for qualifying.
Well, that was a pretty good back of the end zone catch, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Dwight
Come out
Clark.
last second like that after having the issues. You put that thing 4th.
I'm going to say Dwight Clark. Is that okay if I refer to the 49ers in that back of the end zone catch?
My world, absolutely. And I know you did that on purpose.
I did. Yeah. But it was the most famous catch ever.
The catch. All right, Matt, how about it for our fast time qualifier?
How about it for O Canada? Cole Butcher, your Go Fast Racing Fast qualifier, $1,000 bonus. Congratulations. That time in the first section really stuck and really worked out for you.
Yeah, I got nervous. It got pretty cool just sitting here, but we were able to stand our ground and get the pole. So I can't thank Wilson Motorsports enough, my sponsors, Atlantic Tola, and we'll get ready for 400 laps.
It's been a good season for you so far, you know, top 3 in the point standings, and tonight could very well potentially be a good points night for you, couldn't it?
Oh, for sure. It's 400 laps. You know, you have to be there at the end. 2 straight stage breaks, and you know, I think it's gonna be good.
Cole Butcher, your Go Fast Racing Fast qualifier for the Redbud 400, guys.
Yeah, and he grabbed some cash for that and 5 bonus points, Jim.
Big time. And you're talking about points. Casey Roderick not being here, that's another step for Cole to just kind of say, okay, I really need to get max points. Ty Majeski did a great job of getting max points at Milwaukee, winning both stages and the race. And by the way, the end of the race is also the end of stage points bonus paid out for that in this series this year. So, yeah, some catching up to do, and Cole's starting to do it in the right way.
The problem for Cole is there's a redraw.
Yep. He gained 4 points on Ty Majeski, though. Majeski qualifies 5th and gets 1 point for that. Gia Ruggiero, Scotty Tomasic, Kyle Crump, Ty Majeski, the top 5 in time. Also part of the redraw for drawing literally for their starting position in the first 4 rows. Logan Bearden in his debut, Chase Berta, and Bubba Pollard, the top 8 in qualifying. So Pollard again in the redraw for the 3rd time or 4th time, I think it is, in 6 races this year.
I think Matt has another guest for us. Take it away, Matt.
Standing by with Kyle Crump, who had some issues late in practice and originally in qualifying, but does respond with a 4th-place qualifying effort. Kyle, what was the issue there? Late in practice and then here just a little while ago in qualifying.
Yeah, something drained the battery in it, and not sure what that was, so I'm a little nervous before the race because the main power switch was off. So, I don't know, something's drawing on it, but the guys knocked it out of the park back there, made it out with a few seconds to spare, honestly, under the 5-minute clock, and then I think we qualified 4th or something around there. So, awesome comeback, but a little nervous.
Kyle Crump getting ready for the redraw. He'll head to the infield.
Well, that's a little nerve-wracking.
This is an impound race, too. If that team has to go and replace that battery, that is not on the list of things you can do in impound. That may cost them a starting spot. We shall see here at Anderson Speedway what's going to transpire.
Here's hoping she fires later, huh?
Indeed he does.
Okay. Well, qualifying is over.
What do you say we grab some lunch with some superstars of ASA, Ralph?
I like that. We're going to take a short break. Now that qualifying is wrapped up, Jim and I are going to unplug headsets and make our way over to what's known as the pavilion here, where the ASA Racer Reunion is taking place. And we're going to go see some old friends here, and we're going to bring you back over there with us. And we'll be talking to all the superstars of days gone by who are with us here today. So we look forward to seeing you over there. For Matt Preer, Jim Trado, I'm Ralph Sheen. Thanks for joining us for qualifying. Don't go too far away. Keep your TV on, and we'll be right back from the pavilion in a few minutes.
Hi, my name is Nathan Bird, and I'm an American racing driver. I got into racing basically from my dad. I graduated high school in 2018. That summer, he proposed the idea of go-karts to the Indy 500 in 6 years, and I was like, let's do it. So 2 weeks later, I was in my first go-kart race, and the rest is history. Now here I am. My goal in racing is first and foremost to make it to the Indy 500. That's what the Bird Academy is all about, and we're doing it the interesting way, the way that no one else has done it before. So to make the grid at the Indy 500, you have to be a very skilled driver. Very few people get there, and the way we're planning on getting there is myself becoming a super diverse and skilled driver, racing all kinds of different formula cars, short track cars, midgets, sprint cars, silver crowns, super modifieds, all kinds of sport cars, touring cars. And that's the way we're doing, and I think we can get there. We're starting this Bird Academy journey with you guys here at Mid-Ohio, where we're going to be racing the F1000 car and the F2000 car with Arrive Drive Motorsports. The F1000 car is lighter and faster, and the F2000 car is heavier and slower. So going back and forth is going to be a big challenge, and that's sort of why we're here doing what we're doing. The first time we got on track on Saturday was for the F2000 car for qualifying 1. We were going out on a wet track. I love the rain. I love racing in the rain. Unfortunately, the session got black flagged 2 times. And it was because everyone else ended up spinning out or losing control of their cars on track.
What? Am I P1 right now?
No.
Like the
Yeah, you are.
Everyone's
You are.
spun. Everyone in front of me spun. Let's go! Easiest P1 of my life.
And essentially, that took up all the time during the qualifying, so we ended up resorting to practice times.
Yes, I'm on pole. Turns out, so I completed the fastest lap, and I was P1 in practice, so that just makes sense. That makes sense to me.
For F1000 qualifying, we ended up going out on a dry track, but the setup ended up not being very ideal.
High speed boost,
So I ran a few laps. I ran as hard as I could for a couple laps, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna be nice to my tires, pull in, and ended up qualifying P1 for F1000.
I didn't want to run more laps, and I was just hoping nobody would go faster than me. That was my thinking.
I agree with it.
Once both qualifyings were over, I immediately ended up debriefing with my engineers and crew chiefs. It's important to do that and doing the track map as well so that they can figure out how to improve the car setup.
Undecided.
And then I also debriefed with my driver coach, James Davison.
I mean, you couldn't have gotten a better exit there.
He helps me get faster and faster, and that helps me be more prepared for the races.
Racing is a game of details, and it only takes one small detail for the whole result to potentially be affected adversely. And so he's all about the details, and he's just a big sponge wanting to learn everything. He's got very good work ethic, and he's maximizing this incredible opportunity that he has.
In the F2000 race 1 on Saturday, I qualified P1. I unfortunately lost the lead to a car that had better straight line speed than me, and he ended up finishing the race in P1, but not before I was able to challenge him multiple times into the carousel. Not once, not twice. The second time being when we interlocked wheels, went off in the grass, kept going P1, P2 because we had such a lead on everyone else. A few laps later, I went for my last ditch effort attempt to pass him to the carousel. He closed the door. I spun myself halfway out and then kept going. Ended up finishing P4, but I'm glad I went for the move. It's better that I did rather than just kind of being a coward and finishing P2.
I don't know what happened. You do? We'll find out when we look at the video.
Ultimately, F2000 race 1. Can't really be that disappointed. We were slower in the straights, but we were faster in the braking and cornering, which is what I would prefer. And just got to switch gears now and get ready for the F1000.
20. I'll settle for a 20. Low 20.
Going from the F2000 car to the F1000 car, we try to get a little bit of a driver debrief and try to reorient my head with my driver coach, James. But ultimately, you kind of have to fly by the seat of your pants, feel things out. I know I'm going to have to be braking significantly deeper than I do in the F2000 car and just maximizing the F1000 car in ways you can't do in the F2000 car. So you have to quickly adapt, and that's what we were able to do.
Like Barricans, yeah, he was kind of ahead of you going with the start. You need to get that kind of start.
So in the F1000 race, just like the F2000 race, I ended up losing the lead at the start due to the white car Riley Harris's awesome straight line speed. I was able to pass him back, but then got repassed by him. And a few laps later, I was able to complete the pass for P1 around the outside of the keyhole, which is awesome. And my teammate Tommy ended up finishing P2 right behind me, which is a great result for the Route Drive team.
A little bit more rear wing is going to solve the high speed oversteer. Like those are the two things we're fighting against. So I think those combined, I think that's our ticket.
So overall, pretty good day here at Mid-Ohio, day 1. We are looking to improve in the F2000 car, not the result we were quite looking for, but we just need to replicate results in the F1000 car.
If you had just a little more straight line, you'd be able to
bombing into the keyhole.
Yeah, but overall, pretty good. So stay tuned for day 2 of racing here at Mid-Ohio, where you follow along with me and my journey with Bird Academy. All I knew was I had instructions not to take my teammate out.
Rule number 1, don't hit the same color car.
Hi, my name is Nathan Bird, and I'm an American racing driver. My goal in racing is first and foremost to make it to the Indy 500. That's what the Bird Academy is all about, and we're doing it the interesting way. We're starting this Bird Academy journey with you guys here at Mid-Ohio, where we're going to be racing the F1000 car and the F2000 car with the Arrive Drive Motorsports. I went for my last ditch effort attempt to pass him to the carousel. He closed the door. I spun myself halfway out and then kept going. Ended up finishing P4, but I'm glad I went for the move. It's better that I did rather than just kind of being a coward and finishing P2. I was able to complete the pass for P1 around the outside of the keyhole, which is awesome. And my teammate Tommy ended up finishing P2 right behind me, which is a great result for the Arrive Drive team. Pretty good day here at Mid-Ohio, day 1. We are looking to improve in the F2000 car, not the result we were quite looking for, but we just need to replicate results in the F1000 car. Catch you tomorrow. Okay, so I'm kind of sad that it doesn't look like it's going to rain that much today, but at least hopefully we get at least one session in the rain, like yesterday, but this time with people on the track still and running more than one lap. That would be nice. Good. Okay. I was hoping it would rain more today. Yeah. It doesn't look like it will. Like it'll be like rainy or damp this session, but I don't think it's gonna last. You like the rain. And so we started off the day F2000 qualifying 2, where we were running in the wet. Unfortunately, the session got black flagged again due to other drivers not being able to keep their car on track. Are you sure it's black flag all? We got a few more laps this time. I went for a flying lap to go for the pole position, but unfortunately got held up in some of the most crucial parts of the track. Ended up qualifying P2 behind the leader, but a front row start to the F2000 race 2 is not bad at all. I had Austin there. I would have been awesome if I didn't catch traffic in turn 1 and they forced me on the inside line where there's just no grid. And that was easily worth 2 seconds by the time I got down to the keyhole. F1000 qualifying 2, really crazy.
I'm going out in the F1000 hoping for less yellows and black flags and for more green track time so I can execute on the things that me and James talked about. And if we can do that, I think we'll be good.
Ended up starting in wet conditions, and then over time the track dried as we ran more and more laps. So we started off on the wet line, moved to the dry line, got faster and faster and faster. Me and my teammate Tommy ended up trading positions for pole, and he was faster than I was faster, he was faster, and eventually on the final lap, I had my fastest lap, he had his fastest lap, and he eked me out by 1/10 of a second. Really great effort in qualifying from the Arrive Drive team, and I'm really happy for my teammate Tommy for getting the pole position, his first in F1000. I did what I could with the setup that I had, and we were so in between qualifying and the races, we had our lunch break period. I was feeling the nerves, trying to relax myself as much as possible heading into the races. We were starting P1 and P2, and the most important thing in racing when you have teammates is you don't take your teammate out.
And remember, rule number 1, don't hit the same color car.
F1000 race 2, we had a pretty good start. Tommy played it really smart, had a great start. Riley was able to pass me as well. Awesome straight line speed as always. And over the course of the race, we had a great battle, dicing back and forth, me, Tommy, and Riley. And eventually I was able to pass Tommy for P2, and then eventually Riley for P1. And I was able to finish the race over the rest of the field by about 8 seconds.
25 minutes.
That was a good race. Yeah, really good race.
I tried my best to hunt you down, but I got stuck behind him for too long.
Yeah.
I remember we were in Bowling Green, Kentucky, actually. It was the first time I went to one of his events. And and yeah, it wasn't too long ago, but wow, has he gained some experience and some speed and confidence since then.
So F2000 race 2, we ended up having a really good start, passing Austin Hill on the outside of turn 4. We got our lead stretched a little bit, a good amount, and then JC Trahan behind me, who was eventually able to close down the gap to me, beating me under the brakes, and then he eventually passed me. So I eventually realized how late I could brake into the brake zones, matching him. But unfortunately, even though I was matching him in the brakes and the corners, he was able to pull me in the straights. And even though we made a rear wing adjustment to help increase my straight line speed, it wasn't enough. And I think it was probably a little bit deficient in horsepower. But ended up finishing P2. And I think if I could have done it over again, I probably would have been able to challenge for the lead and maybe have won.
At least in the very beginning, I wasn't comfortable going from a hard brake because I was getting rear chatter. Right. And it felt unstable. Thank you.
So overall synopsis of the weekend is that Mid-Ohio may not actually be my arch nemesis track. I always thought about it that way because I wasn't very competitive in Formula cars in all the races I've had beforehand in different types of Formula cars. But this weekend I think proved a different story where I'm winning in the F1000 car and driving really well in the F2000 car but not getting the results that we were hoping for. So we're looking forward to coming weekends where we can hopefully keep on building upon our success in the F1000 car and then also work on improving our results in the F2000 car and just bringing everything together.
Based on what I've seen this weekend, honestly, I think he's going to be a pretty strong professional racing car driver in future years.
Alrighty, folks, that's the end of Mid-Ohio, FRP, F1000, F2000. Pretty successful weekend, so until next time, guys, Daytona, looking forward to it.
Thank you everybody for following along with the first leg of my Bird Academy journey here at Mid-Ohio. Stay tuned for the next episode where we go endurance racing at Daytona. But until then, Bourbon out. Hi, I'm Nathan Bird, and this is the Bird Academy. We're at Daytona International Speedway. We have a long day ahead of us because this time we're going to be doing a 14-hour endurance race with the World Racing League.
I'm going to grab my Hans device and all my stuff, head over to the Racer Motors MPO1, do some driver change practice right there real quick, and then I'm going to be the first guy in the MPO1 heading out for the race. So I think grid's at like 7:20. It's 6:45 right now, so not that much time to work with, but I think we're going to be able to get some driver change practice in still. So have a good night, guys.
This weekend I'm going to be bouncing back and forth between two different teams, Racer Motors in the MPO1 and Hammer Motorsports in the M4. I have two teammates for each car, and that makes it not a me effort, it's a team effort, and we're going to have to work together in order to get the job done. There's a little bit of pressure when you go to a track that you've never raced at before, especially when you haven't raced there with two different cars you're going to have to learn the track with.
Is it running good?
I was a little bit nervous in the M4. I wasn't sure if I was going to get at the speed as quickly as I may want to. And the MPO1, I ended up feeling a bit more confident because I've had more experience with the MPO1. It's a little bit easier of a car to drive. It's a bit more in my wheelhouse, being a Formula car sort of trained driver.
Have a good race, James.
Are you starting today?
Yeah, MPO1.
In the other car? Okay,
Yeah,
got it. Okay, see you out there.
Thank you.
The team decided to have me start the race in the MPO1. I did put down the fastest lap during practice on Friday. So come Saturday, they wanted me to start the race in the MPO1.
All right, guys, we're heading to the grid right now. It's almost go time.
And Hammer Motorsports, they decided that I would start third in the M4. That way the driver lineups wouldn't conflict for both cars. I started third, and by the end of the first lap, I was in first place. Things were going well during the entire first fuel stint. I was running really competitive lap times while fuel saving. I pitted for fuel, went back out again, and by the end of our second fuel stint, a lower class GP3 car ended up making contact with my left rear and breaking the car, making it immediately undrivable. I managed to wrestle the car back down to the apron, probably slow it down enough so I could hobble it back into our pit. And then our crew did an amazing job. They were able to fix the left rear end of the car completely and send us back out only a few laps down. We didn't quite have the pace we did before. Our straight line speed suffered because our rear diffuser was still damaged. It was scraping the ground. And during what was going to be my final fuel stint, I ended up getting a fuel low warning on my dash, and I cleared it. I was going to come back in, and then boom, the next lap the car died on the back straight. I had to get towed all the way to our garage where they were able to get me out of the car. I was really dehydrated after that. I was able to get rehydrated, so I was back in tip-top shape.
I didn't realize how exhausted I was until I got out of the car and stood up. And I'm like, okay, I'm probably going to pass out. Like, okay, never mind. But I think my body likes sitting right now.
And about an hour and a half later, I was put into the BMW M4. I debriefed with the team, asked where we got an appraisal of where we were at in terms of the race. We ended up having made up quite a few positions on track due to good fuel strategy and good driving from my co-driver. And just as I was about to get into the car, lightning struck within the 5-mile vicinity that would cause a red flag condition to come out on the racetrack.
We're going red. Full course yellow came out. It was going to be the perfect timing to swap drivers, get fueled up on the fuel. And bada bing, bada boom, I was going to go out, probably run a double stint, and then lightning struck with no rain, within 6-mile range or something like that, so everything went red, which means you can't work on the cars, you can't drive a train, you can't do anything like that until it goes back to full course yellow. So the advantage we're about to get by hitting on a full course yellow is sort of been mitigated because everyone's going to be in the same boat as us. So
every minute the red flag was out was another minute we were not racing on track. But eventually I was able to get back in the car. I restarted the race in 11th place. I ran 2 fuel stints, and at the end of my fuel stint, I come into the pits, I get refueled, and then another red flag was called. One of my crew guys was actually planning on squeegeeing my driver windshield, but my crew chief, Tim Meyer, said, go, 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 and I went because we were able to actually get out in front of the pace car in pit lane as we were all lined up during the red flag, which then we could drive all the way around and line up behind the pace car, and that event essentially gave us a whole lap back. So it was a great strategy call from our crew chief.
Daytona protocol for lightning strikes in the area. We need to clear all personnel out of pit lane. Everybody needs to take shelter.
That whole move at the end, that was mega, yeah, I can tell. Just need a whole lot back.
Every single time lightning strikes, it's another 30-minute delay before the red flag is lifted. It was about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours of just red flag conditions. By the time the red flag was finally lifted, there was about 3 hours left in the race.
Probably not going to go into MP1 again, if I'm honest. And it might honestly just hurt the strategy.
So this will take a couple of minutes to shake out.
But hopefully we can abandon strategy a little bit for the M4s to get me back in the car.
Ultimately, that was the end of my racing for the day, but we managed to bring both cars home as much as we could. I didn't wreck any of the cars, which is always a good day for me, and I was able to get some experience in the meantime. So overall, a good weekend for both teams, 4th in the GTU and 8th in the GTO. Could have been better for both teams, suffered from different mechanical issues across the board, as most teams do during endurance races that are 14 hours long. And that's just how it is for endurance racing sometimes. And I'm happy that I was able to be a part of it and go through the highs and lows with both teams.
Well, I'm going to head out.
Thank you.
Good job, dude. You did great.
Where'd you end up in GTO?
Daytona, 2 different cars, WRL endurance round, 14-hour race. It was awesome. We had a blast. Learned a lot of lessons, got a lot of seat time, and that's really all I can ask for during this great journey to 2024 Indy 500. We'll see you there.
Thanks everybody for watching episode 3 of the Bird Academy. Stay tuned for the next episode where we race midgets and silver crowns at Indianapolis Raceway Park.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Anderson Speedway here. Now it's time for the 50th anniversary ASA Racer Reunion. Ralph Shaheen, Jim Trado with you. And joining us here inside the pavilion, the great Mike Miller. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Perfect.
Man, it is good to see you.
Oh, hey, before we go any further,
okay,
I'd like to thank Mark and Kay Gundrum for putting this thing on. They worked
it's been great, isn't it?
very, very, very hard to make this happen, and I can't imagine a nicer event.
Well, we couldn't do it without him because Kay's the only one that has all the photos. Right,
and the photos that could make you come if you didn't want to be
there.
there.
That's right. You don't want that photo seen, you better come get it.
Yeah.
Kay's got them all, the good ones and the bad ones. Of course, speaking of photographers, Rick Kimball is here, who legendary ASA photographer walking around. Lots of folks. Ken De La Bastide is here, sitting right in front of us. Did so much of the PR and marketing for ASA.
I got my tie tack, Ken. It's the AC Noco series. This is what Ken uses for a tie tack all the time.
Ross Weiss is here,
and a tie.
Handled all the PR and everything for the series for so
Ross
many
Wellman.
years.
Hello, Ross. And hey, Joanne. Good to see you here.
Yeah, it is great to see everybody here. And we're going to get to so many of the drivers who are here with us today. But, Mike, we're going to start with you. That first ASA win for you coming in Minnesota State Fair, 1980. And that was always one of the legendary stops on the tour, that Labor Day weekend, one of the biggest fair happenings in the country. I was always told it was like the second biggest fair in the country.
Yeah.
To Texas, I think. And what did it mean to get that win there at Minnesota on the Labor Day weekend?
Well, I clearly remember that ASA debuted the V6s, and they gave them like a 200 or 300 pound weight break, and the rest of us were running V8s. And Butch Lindley was checked out, and he had lapped everybody but me, and he blew up. So I inherited the lead, and I inherited everybody else being lapped down. And we had, later in the race, we had a caution, and Mike Eddy was behind me in second place, a lap down, and we restarted, and I started early so that Mike was not going to get his lap back because he was going to be, he was, Butch was the fastest car, second fastest, and then Mike was the third fastest. And I was not going to let him get that lap back if I could avoid it.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we won the race, and it was a lot of beer drank after that thing.
Got to ring the big bell, but more importantly, that was a huge win to win for you, being living up in the area of Minnesota. 18,000 fans showed up every time. It was the last day of the fair, and there were, I think, 2 beer stands, but I'm sure you guys had plenty of your own supply.
Oh, the other thing I remember very clearly about that is Larry Degens had died earlier in the year, and it brings tears to my eyes today, but Larry Degens was in that car with me. I mean, it was a very spiritual event.
Yeah, you then took some 10 years off from racing with ASA.
I went broke.
Went broke, and then came back to go even more broke, because that's what happens in racing.
Well, that's true.
But when you came back, boy, things really started to turn around for you. You won 16 times and locked yourself right into one of the all-time greats in the series, 6th on the all-time wins list. That's pretty impressive.
No, I think it's 9th, tied for 10th, 6th on the...
I've got you 8th, Mike. I got a sheet in front of me. Yeah.
Well,
it's okay.
Whatever. In the top 10.
Between all of us, we'll figure out how to finish a sentence.
Well, Mark Gundrum says you were 6th, so let's always go, as any good promoter, always go higher.
Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah,
21 times.
Should have been 5th.
Right. Anyhow, this group today with Scott and Mike and Bob and Dave Sensabaugh and Tom Jones and all the guys that are here today, and I apologize if I missed a couple of you guys. It is just remarkable to have this reunion. This is just awesome.
Well, it was fun, really, watching Mike come back to ASA. I watched you as a fan back in the early 80s, the late 70s, and you were good. You were really good. You and Dick Trickle were really good on the racetrack, and you guys stayed so tight friendship-wise forever. When you came back to ASA, you were determined to do it right. You brought Carl Hyland with you, his young son Chris. You also had Coleman with you. You had a lot of guys and gals that came to every race together. It seemed that somehow, some way, you took it serious, and you also, well, they say you played hard, you work hard too.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no, we did, and it was a full-time job all year long to race 20 races.
Well, and then you ran the Flaming Goat.
Oh, yes.
So to all of us on the TV crew back in the TNN days, that was a lot of fun. And that, I think, was always one of the highlights, getting the crew to get around the car with you and take that picture. And we literally chipped in, and but that wasn't just a freebie. We were legit race fans. We all chipped in and
it sponsored me.
Sponsored you for the day, yeah.
Yeah, yes, I remember it clearly.
Southern National Speedway in Kenly, North Carolina.
And the other thing that I'd like to mention and talk about a little bit is we raced really, really hard on the racetrack. And I'd occasionally spin Mike Eddy out, and he would occasionally spin me out, and Bob Seneker and Scott, et cetera, et cetera. After the race was over, Mike Eddy invited me over for a fish fry. So it, for all practical purposes, it stayed on the racetrack, and it didn't. In the long run, it didn't affect our relationship.
You and I were talking a little bit yesterday. You said the one thing you really wish had happened was the Las Vegas 300.
Oh, yes, right, yeah.
That was, I don't know, do you remember that, Jim?
That would have been the last race of the season, I want to say in 99, somewhere there.
Somewhere
98.
in there.
98.
Yep.
98,
About,
99.
yeah.
Dan Duvall, who was a part
Got a
of
yes from Ross Wellman, 98. Yep.
98?
Yep.
Dan Duvall, who was a big part of the series back then on the marketing side of it all.
He did the whole TNN and AC Delco thing.
Yep. He brought AC Delco.
That's how we got on TV.
That.
Yeah.
Yep. He had the idea of racing there. There was a casino that was being taken down. It was going to be just an empty parking lot, and we were going to have the ASA Las Vegas 300 right there. I remember flying out and hosting the press conference, making the big announcement, and at the last minute, it was going to be during the SEMA show week out there. It was going to be huge. He'd walk right out of the SEMA show and right across the street and watch the ASA cars, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't come to be. And all us guys were really looking forward to it.
Oh, I was too.
It was going to be an awesome weekend.
Yeah.
C'est la vie.
Yeah, now they've built part of the Las Vegas Convention Center on that property now. So
I say we go indoors. Then what do you say? We'll bring all these guys back.
Okay.
We'll put them in safe cars.
Yeah.
And race them indoors.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's do that.
Mike, our best to you and Judy. It was always fun hanging around with you guys. You made us you made us feel welcome. And one of the wonderful things is when I saw you walk in here last night, you were home. You were around your people, and everybody wanted to talk to you, and you got a chance to talk to a bunch. So thanks for spending some time up on this table with us for a few minutes.
And thank you guys very, very much.
Oh, Mike, it's been a real pleasure. Great seeing you again. Please say hi to the family for us.
Mike Miller, everybody. Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Got a quick story to tell you while our next guest comes up. These little patches I've got in my hand, you don't know this, but Ralph Shaheen and I were wearing blue blazers.
Yeah, blue sport coats.
Whether it be Larry Newber and Rob Albright, whether it be Ralph Shaheen and Jim Trado, we were wearing blue blazers, but we had to have, based upon the network or the opportunity.
It could have been TNN, could have been Prime.
This was the patch that I had duct tape on the back of in my sport coat pocket.
Yep.
When it was a TNN race, you put it on the front.
Yeah.
Chris Economac had his own yellow jacket, by the way, with a logo embroidered on it. And if it was not on TNN, it was one of these patches that the drivers had to wear in the uniform. Put on the
because we did some of the races on Prime Network back then. That would have been the logo there.
So these are I brought a few things. These are two of my things. I thought I'd talk about that because it was a mandatory requirement for the drivers to wear certain patches. Yeah. But those are keep in the pocket just in case you need it for the next time patches.
Well done. Hi, Scott Hansen. How are you, buddy?
Ralph Shaheen, Jim Trado, two of the best.
Well,
okay,
we're
we
the
paid
only
him a lot of money to say that. 26-time winner, 4th all-time on the list, winner of the Redbud 400, winner of just about everywhere you went. That one race in Jennerstown Speedway to determine if you won the championship or not continues to stick in my head. You have been really good for a long time at ASA, Scott. How much fun is it knowing you're around these guys? You won a bunch of races, but, man, you guys raced hard for a long time.
We did. Seeing Mike and Bob and Mike Miller, saying them on, it goes on and on here. To me, this era, the mid-90s-ish, late 80s, mid-90s, was the era for me. I mean, the best of the best were there.
We're celebrating 50 years of ASA. So, Scott, when you were racing dirt in Wisconsin and then got a chance to race at Wisconsin International Raceway, one of our ASA Stars races this August, you got to be pretty good at a couple of Midwestern, upper Midwest tracks. You ran some ARTCO races. What was your first chance or first bite of ASA, saying, man, I made it somewhere, because when you got to run ASA from Wisconsin, it was a big deal to run against the best in the nation.
Well, Kaukauna being my home track, it worked out good. I mean, I just, for whatever reason, I fit that racetrack. It fit me. Had a lot of great success. Won that championship 5 consecutive years in a row there. And that turned Howie Leto's eyes. You know, he thought, guy never raced pavement, comes into pavement and beats the likes of Watson, Bickles, Kowicki, was early on there, Sodders. I mean, Trickle, we had a good time there. And for Howie to notice that, come pick me up, bring me down to Milwaukee to the Baker boys, that was just the start of a great 10 years.
89 Rookie of the Year, I think, right?
89, yep.
We're obviously going to talk a lot about drivers here today. Let's talk about Howie for a second, because nobody really knew him better than you did. That guy is such an underrated crew chief in this sport.
He is, but he wanted it that way. He had job offers to go to NASCAR. He had different opportunities to do different things. Howie loved to fish, too.
Yeah.
You know, and he wanted, when we left Baker's and went down to Gunnerman, you know, I asked him if he wanted to come along. He said, sure. But then we went from 25, 30 races to 50 and 60. And Howie's like, sorry, but that's too much. I don't want to do that. And I get it. You know, I mean, he was so good at what he did, but he wanted to be low-key. He wanted to be, you know, I could piss him off so bad, you know, as me. But
hey, you can tick off a lot of people.
Oh, I'm telling you, I have. And there's
He's
a bunch of them.
Some of them are here.
And there's a bunch of them out there. Yeah. I'm surprised some of these guys look at me and smile like I didn't expect that one. I know what they're thinking. But, I mean, the guy was just phenomenal. And like I said, he didn't want the limelight. He wanted to do his job. He wanted to be successful, and he was with about everybody he had.
7 Rookies of the Year, I believe, and 1 ASA National Championship with Tony Raines was Howie Leto's part of his development. But the development went far beyond that. He was getting calls all the time. My brother Ron worked in that shop. He said, Howie's been on the phone for 3 hours now. Everybody wants to know what shock to run, what spring to run, what'd you do last race there, what should I do if I do this with this setup. He was a very helpful aid to a lot of people that ran in ASA for a long time.
Well, if you knew ASA racing of that day, you certainly knew Howie. There was no way around it. But if you were outside of that circle, you might not have known about him, and that's a loss for the rest of the racing community because he was really something.
Quick Howie story. We were at this racetrack. Somebody walked up to him and said, what are the shock, spring, blah, blah. And, I mean, he told them word for word, number for number. And I'm standing there listening to this. And the guy walked away, and I'm like, that's BS, man. I got to race again. You know, he's like, you're exactly right. You got to race against this. And we want that guy going the same direction as you. We don't want him going backwards. So I thought, okay, pal, I see how we're going to play this game. So we went to Toledo very shortly after. And we had a new trick shock deal they had to try. They had the Penske guys there. And they put them on, and we were a couple tenths quicker. And I'm like, I don't like them. And it was one of those, I'm going to show you.
You were afraid to get the card played to somebody else.
Exactly. I said, I don't like them. So I purposely went out there, and I slowed the lap time down so I wasn't as quick as what I was before. And, he had his finger to his head, and he was curling that hair. And he's like, all right, he put it back the other way. And then I went, well, I screwed up here now.
Yeah.
I had to drive the wheels off of that car. Thank God we won that race because I wanted to prove a point, but in the end, I knew I didn't want to cross that line with him.
Yeah.
He was so smart.
Unbelievable. When you look back on ASA and your time in it, one particular drive that stands out above another for you?
I don't know if I had a bad year. Everything, my first wins with Baker, going with Gunnerman and winning road course races. Schrader winning 7 that year we were down there.
1998?
They were all good. They were all good. I love the road course races. And the fact that Jerry's team, All-Star Racing, was able to win all of the road course races. We just had a pretty good deal there. And, these guys out here today they're what it's all about. I mean, it's not one out here that I can say, I don't really like that guy. He did me wrong or I did him wrong. Every one of them were great competitors.
Never lost a party either, huh, Jim?
Nope.
Including last night.
How about a hand for Scott Hansen, everybody? Scott, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Hanging out in the pavilion. It's always good seeing you. Scott now is officially retired from working, but he's not retired from having fun. Thanks, Scott. It's always good to see you here. We've got a guy coming up here on the stage that's done a few things in his racing career. He's still racing. Working with Mike Cope Racing and the Trans Am TA2. Come on in here. Sit right here in this middle seat here, sir. Put that headset on.
The great Butch Miller joining us.
Man. How you doing, Butch? Good to see you here. Put that headset on and tell us what you've been up to. Yep,
there
you got
go.
one on
Just
each
like
here and that thing in the middle. There you go.
How you doing, Butch?
Hello.
What have you been up to?
Well, I've been listening to that guy live about all kinds of stuff.
Which one?
That Scott Hansen guy.
Oh, that guy.
Hansen.
Yeah.
Okay.
But other than that, I've been I moved to Myrtle Beach and played a little bit of golf. I get to go to the races with Mike Cope for all the Trans Am 2 races. I'm having fun doing that. And that's about it. I work on my boat. I don't drive my boat, I work on it.
Butch is here. Of course, his wife Donna's here. Dogs are here. You guys, it's like we never got away from the racetrack. I remember seeing you guys every race, walking your dogs and hanging out and enjoying it. How about this weekend thus far?
Well, I've been really, because I've got grandson here, son here, so a daughter-in-law, everything's good. It's been, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't want to come here. This is like 12-hour drive. I'm pretty old for a 12-hour drive. I'm so glad I came. Man, I have a great picture, sent it to Mike Cope already, got a reply. He said it's awesome,
Mike Cope raced in ASA. He actually, I think, in All-Pro was a standout. I think he's still in the Milwaukee Mile Super Late Model Track record. Mike ran an ASA as well, and he's got a great thing going. So does Chaz Howe, sitting over here. Those guys with Trans Am TA2, I'm telling you, it's another level of racing you got to experience, and you get to be part of that. But you're still way into it, Butch. You're way into it. Your son Hank is here. I mean, racing's never going to leave you. But when you raced in ASA, you came back as well after the truck deal. You came back and raced again.
I tried to retire. It didn't work. And it's still not working because I love going to the races. I'll watch the race tonight. I'm not going to, when this is over, I'm going to go up in the grandstands. I'm going to enjoy the race.
First ASA race, I believe, documented for Butch Miller was 1976. I don't know if it was the Pink 52 or it was something else, but you've been around this. You literally ran the span of decades here in this series. It had to be a lot of fun knowing who you raced against that are here today and are now in perhaps the NASCAR Hall of Fame as well.
I have yet to meet any of the drivers here that I didn't race against. So, the only thing I could say is like I watched Bob Seneker from the grandstands because I wasn't old enough to race. That's the only thing I remember for sure.
But you also saw ASA go through some significant changes generation-wise with the car. Was there a particular form of the ASA car that you enjoyed more than another? Like, for example, we got Bob's old Bluebird over here, and we have Dennis Lampman's car out here with the original LS1 in it, the Vortec.
I kind of like the LS1 because I had the same engine as everybody else had.
And the common center sections and all that.
Yeah, I liked all that. But still, Rex, and the brilliant man that he was, he says, well, okay, you can work on front of the center section and you can work behind the center section. And we did a lot of work in front and behind. And, I had fun. I mean, racing is great today, but it'll never be like it was back then. Like racing with Mike Eddy. I'm out there with Mike Eddy. If we wrecked together, we didn't wreck hard because we knew we had to go home. We fixed the car.
Yeah.
We didn't have a crew sitting there. We fixed it ourselves. And, I think that's what made the – and, the other thing is when we got done racing, we all had a beer together.
Yeah.
We raced hard. We'd be mad at each other on the racetrack, and then it was time to have a beer. And everything was forgiven, and we went home, and it was a great life.
That's one thing that I recall as a constant was when you went to an ASA race, if you were traveling from far away, the teams would generally stay at one or two hotels. Everybody would stay at one or two hotels.
Oh, yeah.
The ASA officials would stay at sometimes all at the same hotel. Our TV crew, man, we like to have fun. They
the other
would
thing
stay
we
at
did
the
was
hotels
we all
with
stayed
everybody.
at the same bar. I can tell you that for a fact.
But that family atmosphere, and you knew you could count on other guys to help you out, and you got to talk to people outside the racetrack. Because Butch, it's all, visor down, I got to do my thing, can't talk to anybody else. But in those environments, I think it really helped grow that family of just togetherness that I kind of miss.
Yeah. There's a couple guys that I wish could be here, and they're not here. And so I'd like to tell you a little sad story, But it's a great story, but it's a sad story because they aren't here anymore. And I can remember, I can't tell you the year, but I can remember racing at Nashville. And Dick Trickle was in the race, and Alan Kowicki. And it was the last race of the year, and it was between but Dick Trickle and myself. Whoever finished in front of whoever won the championship. So it was down maybe, 25 laps to go in the race. And Dick Trickle's, we weren't going to win the race. Dick wasn't going to win it, I wasn't going to win it. But Dick was like in maybe 4th spot. Alan Kowicki was in 5th spot, and I was in 6th spot. It's like 20 or 25 laps to go in the race. And this tells you what everybody thought back then and what kind of racers we were and enjoyed each other. But got down to 25 laps to go. Alan Kowicki just moves off to the side, let me go race Dick Trickle for the championship that year. Just went on behind us and said, you guys have it out. And I didn't win. Dick Trickle ended up winning it. But I just remember that Alan Kowicki move and how great it was that he let me go race Trickle for that.
That's great. Two other people that are not here with us today that we need to talk about are Rex and Becky Robbins.
Oh,
they were the lifeblood of this series. What do you remember about Rex and Becky?
I remember Rex smoked a lot, but being in the driver's meeting, he took command, and he was brilliant. I mean, he knew, he's the one that put all this with the common center section. Mm-hmm. He put all that together, but he was I don't know how or what, but when you went and raced with Rex, you raced a professional race. It was like, you raced, at Berlin and you raced here, and it was all great racing, but when you raced with Rex, it was professional, and when you won a race with Rex, it was fabulous. And I guess that's what I remember about him.
I would recommend you read the book Let's Go Racing. Dave Argerbright, the co-author, is here. Yep. He spent a lot of time with Rex Robbins and wrote the book about ASA and how it was formed and the chances that Rex took and the risks that they took to keep this schedule and get on television. Yeah. Let's Go Racing is the name of the book by Dave Argerbright.
Yeah, put everything for the family on the line, right? To deliver for the racers. It was an incredible time, and, of course, their son Brian.
Yep. A lot of people were involved in that. A lot of folks over the course of time. He's waving his grandbaby. There he is. He's waving back there. Yeah. That's cool. You guys have family with us today, too, Butch. I'm glad you're enjoying it together.
I am. And I can't believe how I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I am enjoying it. It is great to see all these people. Tom Jones, Mike Eddy, Bob and Scott, even though he's a liar.
Robbie Pyle sitting there. David Chevy sitting there.
Oh, that's the first thing. I had to tell a bad story to Robbie about how I accidentally spun him out.
Oh, really? You finally admitted something. What?
Accidentally spun him out. For the lead, of course.
So when Butch and I shared a brief career together in the TV booth, I'd bring up things to Butch because it was Rick Benjamin, myself, and Butch calling these races. And I'd be like, hey, Butch, remember when you were here at Berlin? You won 9 times, you did this? And you're like, I did that? That's all he would ever say. Because now he's actually admitting things he did back in the day rather than just taking the high road.
I was talking to Mike Garvey about that, and I says, Mike, how many races do you remember actually winning? He says, not many. I said, I don't hardly remember any either, but I remember the stuff like spinning out Robbie Pyle. I remember doing that,
Well, there's
the
a
bad
lot.
stuff I remember. The good stuff I forget.
There's a lot for you to remember, too, Butch. I mean, there's 50 victories in ASA alone.
Oh, man, that's neat. I wish we could do it again.
Yeah, right? It was fun. Buddy, thanks for coming by, Butch.
Well,
so
thanks
great
for
to
having
see you.
me.
Thank you, Butch. Appreciate it very much. Butch Miller, everybody. Third on the all-time list of 50 wins in 306 starts. Next up is a guy that we said, you know what, this ASA star thing is going to be a pretty big deal. And he happened to live right down the road from Pensacola, Florida. The very first ASA Stars National Tour race was in Pensacola, Florida this past March, and he was on stage as the ASA honoree. We now bring him on this stage with the headset as a driver who's really been good. 21 victories, tied for 6th all-time in the ASA National Tour. Still racing, Mike Garvey. Welcome to Anderson Speedway.
Hey, glad to be here. If I can get this microphone on.
There you go.
1990 champion. A lot of fun over here with this series.
Man, it was probably the best time of my life. I heard Butch say something about it, but as far as racing, this was the best. I mean, you race with great competition, TV, the fans were great. I mean, it's just like this weekend. It's just great to be here and to see everybody and just kind of feel the atmosphere again like it was. It doesn't feel like it's ever changed.
Yeah. You know, it's hard to, I guess, maybe explain to the folks what the competition level was like, but you've raced all over the place in a wide variety of different series, from the highest to the lowest. Can you try to put into words what it was like to battle for a win in an ASA car compared to some of the others?
I mean, like you said, it was the way I saw it. This was the best of the best. I mean, this was the guys that you raced in ASA was no different than the guys that raced in NASCAR to me. And it's really not. You know, like I'll see Jimmy Johnson, and Jimmy will ask me, was asking about ASA, how was it, you know? So you see someone who raced ASA that goes there as a 7-time champion, and he wants to know what's going on in the ASA series. I mean, it was the best of the best, you know, and it was a huge honor for me to race against the guys that I grew up as a kid idolizing, the Mike Eddies, Mike Millers, Butch Miller. It goes on and on. Bob Seneker. I mean, I hate to leave anybody out because there's so many of them, but these guys were the way I feel it, there's the best in the country.
Did they kind of set the stage for you? You were a Michigan short tracker, got really good at what you did, started doing some traveling, but you literally moved with you and your family to different places to get the race in ASA and then up in the NASCAR Cup.
Yeah. I mean, it did. You know, like when I was a kid, when I was growing up, going to the All-American 400 at Nashville, that was the Daytona 500 to me. I didn't follow NASCAR, didn't really care about it, you know. So, like I said, I'm a kid from Michigan. They would come to Berlin, and I mean, that was the biggest thing that I'd ever seen in my life, you know, and that was my goal. That's the guys I wanted to race with. And then to be able to go to Nashville and all the other ASA races and win some races, I mean, you almost got to pinch yourself now, as it almost doesn't feel real.
And you won big races. You won the All-American 400 twice. You won 21 of these ASA races. You got some really good teams with you, too. I mean, your opportunities came with effort, and you really made the most of them.
You know, I had a lot of great opportunities, and I also worked with a lot of great people. I mean, you can't ever – the teams I was able to race with, that's how it makes it possible. You know, one person can't do it by themselves, so – really, really proud of a lot of the guys I've worked with have really done well in the racing community, and that's what it takes. It takes a lot of good people because everybody you're racing against is the best. You know, you better have yourself surrounded with the right stuff to have that opportunity.
You came through the era too when, you know, we had the TV package was really strong, as you pointed out.
Yep.
Johnny Benson kind of led that. He was the first one to get picked out and moved up, and then after Johnny, the doors just opened and there was a flood of names going that way, including yourself, Tony Raines, and Refner. And
1993, Johnny wins the ASA championship, goes to Xfinity, wins Rookie of the Year. The next year, he wins the championship. 1995, Brian Refner wins the ASA championship. 1986, he's the Truck Series Rookie of the Year.
Right.
Kevin Swinski won the championship. He went to trucks immediately. I mean,
Tony Roper.
Those roads were paved.
Yeah.
Like you got a chance to win the ASA championship. You got yourself a chance. Johnny Sauter among them.
Yeah. Like I said, it gave you so much credibility. If you were able to win on this level, it gave you a lot of credibility to everybody else. And like I said, there's a lot of guys that went through NASCAR and done really well that came straight through ASA.
Was it instant respect for you when you got up there from the rest of the guys in the garage area over there because of that?
Yeah, I think there was. I mean, they didn't know who I was from Adam, you know what I mean? But they knew, like, I just know what the people would ask me. You know, Elliott Sadler, guys I've never been around in my life. And they would say, you know, I know you come from ASA, you know, you did this, so glad for you to be here, you know. So, yeah, that meant a lot. So I think it did. I think it really, like I said, racers know racing. Racers pay attention to what's going around the country. So they knew the guys that were coming through ASA had been taught from the generations before us. We had to learn how to race. We didn't just go out there and run over people and act crazy. I mean, you had to race and race right, or they would put you in your place.
Yeah.
Mike, it's great seeing you. Our best to you with taking care of Lisa. She just got some knee surgery, right? Your wife? So got to make sure she's on the mend as well. We're thinking of her as well today.
She wanted to come so bad, you can't imagine. I made my plane ticket the day before. Well, I made it Thursday because she was doing everything she could do to get here. She wanted to be here so bad. This is all of her friends. This is the people she wanted to see. And like you said, it was that big family atmosphere that, when your wife wants to come, that's a big deal.
Yeah, tell her we all said hello and wish she could have been here. Hope she heals up quick.
Thanks to your son, Austin, for his service to the country as well. That little dark-haired kid that would run around the pits with you guys with the lanyard on and the team shirt. Yeah. He's serving our country proudly. Thank you, Mike.
Yep, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Hi, Mike. Great seeing you.
Mark Garvey joins us here again. This is the Redbud 400. This is a race that's been on since 1967. ASA started in 1968. The first official sanctioned race by Rex Robbins was a sprint car race. ASA National Tour started in 1973. Dave Sorg, the official first winner there. And we mentioned a lot of guys that went on to win Rookie of the Year with Howie Leto and go on to race in NASCAR. Our next guest is another generation of racers. Mom and Dad both raced. David Stremme, welcome back to Indiana, man.
Thank you.
Good to see you here.
This reminds me of going back to a race and roundup show
baby.
you have. Yeah,
I still host that show.
I still watch it.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, man.
Pat Shower Rookie of the Year Award.
How about that?
That's a name we haven't had a chance to talk about yet. Pat Shower and what he meant to this series and what that award means to guys like David. When you won that award, that meant something.
Oh, it's huge. The other thing is racing for Howard. Howie Leto was my crew chief. Howie was with Pat when he passed away.
Never heard you call him Howie. I always called you
Howie.
You always called him Howard.
Yeah, it was depends. I was talking to Hanson earlier, so he got me talking about Howie.
Okay.
But when you look at the drivers that he had, there was a lot of pressure on you. So you had to perform. But that Pat Shower Memorial was really cool. I'm always into history of stuff, so I got to meet his boys, Ryan and trying to think of the other one right now, Mike. But got to know them, know about their dad and everything else. So it was really cool. It's just like the Goldbrick, Rookie of the Year and the Outlaws. You get to know all about the history of that. So it was neat. I thought it was really cool that they kept that going. And I wish, I really look at about 2.5 years I was in ASA part-time. Robert Hamke got me in there. But I was a fan more than anything. It's like all these guys here, I was sitting there talking to Mike and Hanson. Hanson was a huge impact on my career that a lot of people don't know. And in 2001, they had 9/11. And Hanson was like, we're going to go run Rockford Short Track Nationals or we're going to go to Winchester. And he called me, hey, you want to go run Winchester, Sure, me and Howie got in Finetti's car, went down there, sat on the pole.
Because Scott had a race conflict. He chose you to race his other car.
Did. And it really goes back to I think it was like 99. 99. We went out to the Southwest Tour race.
I was on the PA duties. You'd never been on a track bigger than a half mile in your life.
There's rednecks from Indiana, Hamke. Well, I'll go back to Schrader and Jimmy Michaels. They got us hooked up with Hamke. We didn't even have one of his cars. We go to North Carolina. We get the car. We drive out to, Phoenix. Here's like 90 cars. I'm like in awe. Here's NASCAR weekend, everything. And we qualified 5th. Led a lot of the race, and Hanson beat us by like 5 inches at the end,
He got you on track experience. You had a faster car, but he got you in turn 3 on the last lap.
He had fresher tires, too.
Mm-hmm.
But I could have.
And he was cheating.
Nowadays,
he was cheating.
Well, he was, but but it still wasn't what beat us. But I could have run him out. I roughed him up. But I raced him how I'd want to be raced, and that's what got me. I just look at a lot of my career. But in 2002, we had a terrible season to start with. We wrecked a lot of cars. I remember we went to California and we wrecked the primary. Guy was pulling off the track, so then. I was young and dumb, and we go out qualifying. I wrecked a car qualifying, so then we stay up all night, fix it. Anyways, there was a stretch there, and then we really got on a roll. We got like 6 second-place finishes. We won twice, and phone rang. Hey, it was Ganassi, and I was able to go on to NASCAR. Obviously, it's what I dreamed of, but I remember when I was able to going back to 2001 and get that call from Ron Daniels and all them at GoGo Motorsports. Hey, you want to come run full-time? I'm like, this is awesome. That's all I wanted. So, sorry I didn't mean to take up time.
It's absolutely what we want to talk about because your job with Ganassi also included the chance to race in the NASCAR Cup Series in that Coors Light number 40.
Yeah.
That was something you worked towards after winning and putting your own money towards winning Rookie of the Year in the Xfinity Series to get that chance.
Yeah, I was lucky at 14 years at the NASCAR level. I'll be honest. And I was very blessed to get to do that and learned a lot and probably didn't have the success I wanted, but in ASA, everybody could work hard, and you could make your success with your team and the guys. It wasn't as, how do I want to say it? It wasn't as mental as bad because, like, you go to NASCAR level and they just mentally beat you up. It's always backstab, just a different environment. And ASA, it was cool. I really wish I could have stayed there for a while, but we got to move on, got to do some really cool stuff, and I can say I was part of ASA. It was really cool to be there.
And when you guys got rolling, I live in Milwaukee, never moved. When you guys were rolling out of those Milwaukee shops with Howie and you guys were cooking in that year, man, you guys had a lot going in the right direction.
Oh, it was awesome. Just seeing, with your brother, Ron was working with us and the team, and we'd go to the racetrack. And when I talk about NASCAR and like our ASA team, we knew at the time we were probably on half the budget of everybody else. We went, it wasn't like, they've been testing these guys. We just worked hard, and we knew what we had to do. And we got results, And that year, that 2002 year to me was super tough. I mean, there was, 4 of us going into Winchester, could have won the championship. I mean, you look at that. And again, we say it all the time. You look at the guys that come out of it. And I credit Mike, Eddie, Mike Garvey, Butch Miller, Sawinski, so many of them guys, Mike Miller. They are the guys that taught us racecraft and that we were able to move on and do some things. So that was really cool, to be able to race against them and learn. And still to this day, there's so many things I've learned from them guys that I put to use.
You're racing and winning in your own modified chassis business. You just won last week again. I think it was the week before. You're now moved to Pennsylvania. That's got to be a lot of full-time everything, especially the baby in the shop nowadays.
People forget about my my short track career. They're like, they see me dirt racing or they know my NASCAR stuff, but we do all the testing for SRX. I just come from Connecticut. I said, hey, I ain't going to miss this weekend. So we come in, but it's funny because I'll be somewhere and we'll get talking about some short tracks, whether it's Winchester or somewhere else, and the guys will look at me and I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to race all them tracks too. So we have a lot of fun. The dirt racing really reminds me, and I told Hanson this, I was very jealous of that late 70s, 80s, early 90s of ASA, ARCO, all that stuff. Them guys, man, they race their butts off.
70 races a year, I think some of those teams are putting in.
I mean, just
20 here and 50 elsewhere.
You'd see them run a tour race, and all of a sudden they're over here racing. And I really feel dirt racing is where that is now. You watch these guys, they're out, just like right now. I'm going to head at home. I'm just looking at about 3-4 tracks I want to run at on Sunday, just watching the weather and see where we're going to pop in at.
Wow.
So.
Well, nobody's forgetting about Lethal Chassis. You got a heck of a business going over there.
Thank you. And it was awesome to come out. Thank you guys for everything you've all done, too, with ASA and all that. So
great seeing you, David.
Thank
David
you guys.
Stremming, thank you, my friend, for being here. Thank you for making the effort as well. He's got racing to do on Sunday.
Yeah, he does. We got some coming up tonight. Don't forget, we got 400 laps to go here tonight in the Redbud 400.
One car that's sitting over here in full regalia as it was tucked away in 1979 is the Chevrolet Camaro with the number 84 on the door. I saw it at the Winchester 400 2 years ago. This man sitting between us, take that car for a couple laps before the start of the Winchester 400. Let's
the original
welcome in
Bluebird is here, Bob Seneker.
Bob Seneker, the winningest driver at ASA. The Bluebird's in the house. Bob, welcome back to Anderson, man.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute, I got to see who I am. All right, let's go.
Well, that's something else that hasn't changed.
Says
the
number
sense of
84 in
humor.
there. We're here. We're
the sense
good.
of humor with Bob has always been there. Fast race car and a good joke every time you saw him.
Bob, what comes to mind when you see that car? I know you've been in it a few times, but the idea of that kind of helps us carry through this big celebration today. You're such a part of ASA. When you see that car, get in that car, hear the stories, what comes to mind?
Well, it's so long ago I was at Winchester with that car in the races, and after we went down there, I think it was last year and made a few laps, and they showed the pictures from '79 and then last year. It just about brought tears to my eyes. It was really cool.
When you built that car, how many tricks did you throw at it?
I don't have any tricks, Ralph.
You're still building your own suspension parts, man. You got a one-of-a-kind car. Every time Bob races, no one else has it like it.
No, that's it.
I imagine that's the way you prefer it, right, Bob?
Yeah, well, I used to change the suspension on it all the time on any of my cars. And usually when I went to the racetrack, if Ed Howe was around, he'd grab my creeper and roll under the car to see what I was doing this week.
Yeah.
You check it out all the time.
Do you feel like you had one more car left in you that you wish you had the time to build, that you had thought of some stuff you'd like to have done?
No, when it was finally done in 2020 or 2010, whatever that was, 2000, I think it was.
Yeah.
A long time ago, I relaxed, said it's time. Like, I don't have to worry about the car on Monday. Maybe I can do something on the weekends like real people do.
Hey, was it true? This is a myth buster here. When your wife said, you're going to do what for Jerry Gunderman? And he said, Jerry Gunderman wants me to race his car. And she said, we need a new lawnmower. Is that true that she said, if you don't get a new lawnmower out of this deal, you can't go racing?
Well, it went something like that. He was trying to talk her into letting me go, and finally he came up, well, what if I give you this lawnmower?
It is true.
It is true, yeah.
That's great.
So on the way over to pick us up, he had another trailer behind him. He dropped the lawnmower off before we even went racing.
Was it a riding mower or one you had
to a John Deere, the big dollar one.
Wow. The big one. All right, okay. So many legendary battles between you and Mike, Eddie. Was there one that stands out that you enjoyed the most?
Yeah, watching him getting escorted out of Berlin after the race.
But he said pushing the car out on the front stretch, as the teams did at Berlin, gave him 2/10 just by the noise of the crowd, knowing how much he was despised at Berlin Raceway.
Yeah.
Your fan favorite track.
The fans did fire me up there, and that really worked.
I see Joe Knott standing over here, and he brings up what Bob Seneca, Joe Knott provided, one of the iconic moments in ASA history at Jennerstown Speedway.
Got to call that one.
Oh, man. Coming across the line, one on the wall, one in the fence. I mean, literally on top of the wall. You guys had a crazy finish to that one. What have you been told or thought about or got pictures of to prove that you guys had one hellacious, memorable finish?
Well, I don't know. You must all remember Hal Apple that was on my race team, the big guy.
Yep.
And after I crashed and went across the finish line, he said, "Are you all right?" And I said, "Did I win?" He said, "Yeah, boy." I said, "I'm all right."
That's great. That's great. So this car, the original Bluebird, your son has that car? He's been
my
nephew.
My nephew bought it. Yep. And the guy that owned it, he found that in a barn that some guy bought from Ed Howe when I quit racing it, and it never raced again. He was going to, but he never did, and it sat in that barn for 30 years. And this guy from Arkansas found it, and he put it back together. I think it needed an engine rebuilt or something. But the car is exactly the way I left it. When I climb in it, it feels familiar. Like all the switches are the same, the brake pedal's the same. It steers like a truck. It don't have power steering.
All the dents are still in it.
Yep.
It's just the way it last raced.
Yep. The guy asked Mark Martin. He told him he was going to try and fix it up and make it pretty. And Mark said, "No, don't you touch that car. You leave it just like it is."
Yeah, I love it.
When I saw the gates open and the driver of the hauler bringing that car here was Dave Sensible and his dad, Bob. They brought the car down from Michigan from the Seneca shop. I talked to Dave. I said, "This is so cool." He said, "I'd love to find a car like my dad drove back in that day." It was that you were racing against them in ASA. But Bob, take us through when the season ended in '79, you sold that car as we see it today, but there's a very good reason behind that. You didn't need that car the next year. You needed the money from that car to build the car for next year, right?
No, that's not how that went. I didn't even own that car.
Oh, okay.
That was Ed Howe's car. I drove for Ed for a couple of years.
Okay.
He was giving me the cards, and so he sold it. I don't remember what I did the year. I finally went back on my own. I drove his cars for a couple of years. Then I decided I want to engineer my own stuff again. That's what I really like doing, is building and engineering. And that's what I did most of my life.
Do you have any more race cars left? Any of the cars you built?
Nothing. I got a few boxes of old beat-up parts and tricks that I put on a car that didn't work. They wound up in a basket. I take a picture of them once in a while to see how crazy I was thinking.
Did you enjoy or not enjoy when they went to the common center section? Because you could only work on the front and the rear, supposedly.
Well, I think we all hated it at first, as we're being told exactly what we got to run, but it turned out to be such a great deal. You know, we had a solid, safe cage to work with, and then we were allowed to build our own suspension. We could design anything we wanted. It was a perfect idea, really. Rex really had his stuff together.
Yeah. What did you like about racing for Rex Robbins as a promoter?
He made the rules, and he made you stick to them. Yeah,
pretty fair and balanced.
I like going to the meetings, what are the drivers' meetings, and you knew that Rex was in control. I love to hear his voice in the first place, because he sounded like he was in control, and he kept a straight line.
So what we're doing here is kind of recreating, but we're missing that big jar of salt pills. Remember, Rex would bring that out and say, "Guys, make sure you take your salt pills." That was like the end of the drivers' meeting. He'd bring out a big old jug, so you all took salt pills so you wouldn't get dehydrated.
Yep. I don't know if it worked or not, but we took them.
That is great.
What you doing these days, Bob? Still making front-end parts?
Yeah, still doing that, slowing down a little bit, and mowing grass.
On the John Deere?
Yeah.
Oh, same one?
Well, Patty drives that most of the time on the front yard. But I got him on my runway, and I got a big mower for that.
We're going to go ahead and bring Mike Eddy up here, too. Mike, why don't you come on up here, too?
Who is that?
Yeah.
I'm going to step out because, we got 3 of these, and we got 2 legends at the same time. Can't pass this up. Come on up, Mike.
The Bluebird and the Polar Bear up here.
You want to get between us?
No, you're fine. You sit right there. You're okay.
No, I think I might be in trouble if you don't.
No, you're all right. I think you two are okay. Well, Mike, how are you?
I am just fine. How are you?
I am doing great. Get to sit here with 2 of my heroes and 2 of my buddies all at the same time. It's so wonderful to have you both back here. What's it like for you to come back and see all these war horses you used to battle with?
Well, let's put it this way. I never really thought about coming back to anything like this, but I'm really impressed getting to see all these guys that we raced against for 20 years or more. And you know what? We probably weren't speaking as much when we all raced against each other, but that's when we were competing.
So the 2 of you had legendary battles. If we look at that old Bluebird over there, and there's got to be 1,000 dents on it, Mike was probably good for 999 of them. You guys raced as hard as I've ever seen 2 guys race each other, but how much respect did you have for each other?
Lots of respect. I mean, grew up watching Bob race. It sounds like he's a lot older than me, but I sat in the stands at Tri-City Raceway and watched him, and always wanted to be like him someday.
How about you, Bob? How much respect did you have for Mike?
He was a heck of a racer. If you could win or even run with him without him squeezing you too hard, you were doing awful good.
There's a couple of stories with you two that I remember that from back when I was covering ASA when you guys were racing that always stood out to me. First one was the first race we ever did on TNN Live with the old ASA cars. It was a Nashville 400, and you guys probably remember Darrell Waltrip was in that race. And the 3 of you, you 2 and Darrell, battled all the way to the end of that race. And I had to interview Darrell at the end of the race, and he got out of the car, and he was absolutely wiped out. And he looked at me live on TNN, and he said, "Those 2 guys raced me harder for that victory than I've ever had to race in my entire life for a stock car win." And I thought that moment right there when the 3-time Cup champion says that you 2 guys took him harder than anybody he's ever raced with, immediately established the credibility for ASA going forward.
I remember that race. I just about ran into him going down in the 3rd turn, going for the checker or the white flag, one or the other. And I drove in so hard, he saw what I was doing. He slammed on the brakes, and I went sliding by him, slid up in the top, and he went zoomed underneath me. He tricked me. I didn't trick him.
Yeah, I remember that one a lot. The other one, Mike.
I think I had to race Mike all the way to get up to Darrell, though.
Yeah. The other one I remember a lot, too, Mike, was one night at Cedar Rapids. And at Hawkeye Downs there, and the 2 of you guys had battled hard for the win. And I got to see if I remember this correctly. You won, Mike, but there was a lot of folks in the grandstands. You guys had battled hard and got to beating and banging. There's a lot of folks in the grandstands that were cheering for Bob. And you and I were standing in your pit after the race. They were coming by. They were giving you the business. And you leaned to me and you said, "I like it when they do that." And I said, "Yeah, why is that?" And he said, "Well, that guy right there is a Bob Seneca fan," because he had Bob's T-shirt on and the whole thing. He goes, "He's a Bob Seneca fan. But here he is after this race," so you guys had run 300 laps or whatever it was, "and he's telling me everything I did wrong for 300 laps around Hawkeye Downs," which means instead of watching his favorite driver, he's been watching my Good Wrench Chevrolet go all night, and he's seen my logo and my sponsors all night long, and I love that. You remember that?
Yes, I do remember that. That was just, I ain't saying that fan really was coming there and saying congratulations to me.
Oh, no, he wasn't happy with you.
He was telling me a lot of stuff.
Yeah, he was pretty mad at you, but it was just the point that you saw the marketing side to it.
But he left happy. He wasn't mad when he left.
Yeah, all good. Is there one battle that you 2 remember about competing against each other that sticks out to you individually more than another?
I remember one up in Canada. What's that race? Way on the other end of Canada. Calgary, yeah. I got you with a lap or two to go.
Yep.
And I think you tried to take me out in the next corner, but you missed or something.
I tried to. I tried as hard as I could to hit you going into 3.
And you missed.
And I missed by that much. And I about drove right into the fence. Luckily, I didn't hit the fence and ended up second. But I was trying to get him.
You knew he was coming.
I knew he wasn't going to like this pass at all because I bumped him like he usually bumps me.
Yeah.
I bumped him over a little bit, and I went on by. I said, oh, this ain't going to be good. So I went in that third a little extra fast so he couldn't catch me because I knew he was going to try to take me out. And I didn't know what was going on, but I looked in my mirror, and he's up at the top of the racetrack, and I said, how? What happened to Mike? He said he missed.
Right
he missed.
Yeah.
He missed.
That's great. That's great. Well, I think we have a special award we're going to be handing out to these two guys here. Mark, you got?
Thanks, Ralph. Can you hear me out there? Again, thanks, everybody, for coming here. Tonight is about all of you, all of us, this racetrack, and the American Speed Association. It's about Rex and Becky Robbins, who gave us the opportunity to be a part of this family. And I think the way we come back here tonight together, friends, family, laughter, proves that that was one heck of a tight family for a long, long time. And now we have Mike and Bob here, the faces of this series for many, many years. And guys, your peers, these folks out here have asked me, I'm not sure why, but they've asked me to make a presentation to you guys tonight on behalf of ASA and the Robbins family. We've created a couple of plaques for both of you, Lifetime Achievement Awards in ASA for your accolades over all these long years. Congratulations to you guys, and thank you so much for being here tonight.
There are not two drivers more fitting to receive this award for sure. You guys definitely set the tone for everything that came before and after your careers with these drivers who now are racing tonight in ASA. When they say they want to achieve something in the sport, you guys set the bar for what it is with ASA for sure.
Oh, this is really cool. I'm glad I showed up, and I'm really glad you showed up.
I'm glad I showed up. I got to tell you, there's one guy that convinced me to come, and that was Mike Miller. He called me right at the right time in the afternoon. And
the happy hour?
Yeah, right at the end of happy hour. And so, yes, I really appreciate this. And, you know, we forget how much Rex and Becky did for all of us. And it's better late than never to say that I'm really proud to represent what they brought and give us a place to play all this time.
I got to tell one quick story about Mike. So I forgot the year. We were talking about this earlier today. I forgot the year. It was early in the 90s when ASA was racing, and Mike had come out and won the first 3 races of the season, just dominated, wins the first 3. We go to Topeka, Kansas, race number 4. Hey, Gary St. Amant. Race number 4. And I check into the hotel, and I see Mike sitting over at the hotel bar, and I'm thinking, I'll go have a beer with Mike. So I check in, I walk over, and I sit down, and we start talking about racing and the cars and all that. And I said, by the way, all the races you've won, what do you do with all your trophies? He says, I give it to the first person who asks. I go, what do you mean? He goes, I don't care if it's a kid, a grandmother, whatever. First person to ask for a trophy, I give it away. I said, okay, I'm calling your bluff. I get the next one. He goes, you're on. I'm thinking, wow, okay, I got to figure out how I'm getting this trophy home this weekend. Guy's been unbeatable. He went 0 for the rest of the year from that moment forward. And I'm thinking, oh, God, Mike is going to kill me, right? No doubt about it. And I didn't think he was going to miss on the whiff with me. So we get to the end of the year banquet at Grand Ole Opry down there in Opryland in Nashville, and I'm hosting the banquet. Mike finishes 4th in the championship, so I got to call him up to the stage to give him his 4th place owner and driver's trophies. I announce his name, and I'm thinking, I better tell this story before he gets up here because he's going to lay one on me, I know. So I tell the story, everybody starts laughing, and he gets up, and he takes that 4th place driver's trophy, and he goes, here, I don't want this one. Go away. Now you got your trophy. I'm like, okay, great. We got through that. So then beginning of the very next year, we're at Lakeland, Florida, open the season up, and who wins? Mike. So now he's fourth, and he had gone 0 for whatever, but he wins first one out of the box. So we're all in the TV compound post-race, having a beer, winding down. We look up, here comes this guy walking through the shadows carrying a beer and a trophy with his driver's suit down around his waist. It's Mike. And he comes walking over, he goes, I couldn't let you have a fourth-place trophy, so here you go. So now I got his fourth-place driver's trophy from the year before and his Lakeland trophy that he won the next year sitting in my game room. So thank you, Mike, still for that. I love those trophies. They mean the world to me. One final thing before we close this out and get ready for the race time. I personally got to thank the both of you. Guys were both so gracious with your time, your information, your friendship, all of that during the years covering ASA. All the drivers here, Gary, Scott, Mike, Joe, all of you were. But you two especially, the heroes of the sport, were so gracious with all your time. I greatly appreciate that and everything you did to help me get my career off and running. Mike Eddy, Bob Seneker, the Polar Bear, and the Bluebird. How about it, ladies and gentlemen? What a great way to spend an afternoon here in Anderson. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you, Ralph.
So great to see you both.
Thank you.
It was awesome. We'll be back with more with the racing coming up in a little while from Anderson.
Hi, I'm Nathan Bird, and welcome to episode 4 of the Bird Academy.